Are you guys as tired of this as I am? Okay, if you are, hang tight. I'm gonna show you how we stopped our cats from using our garden beds and rolls as litter boxes. Let's go. Okay, so before we get into what we're using to keep our cats out of our raised beds, I want to give you guys some honorable mentions, I guess, for some of the things that we have used in the past that worked and haven't worked. First thing is the plastic forks. The plastic forks are a great idea and they do work. They do work. However, it's really tedious to use those plastic forks. It's really monotonous to have to get down and place all those forks, especially if you have a garden that's our size. We don't have a very large garden, but I guess in respect to some gardens, ours is pretty decent size. The forks do work, but it would take us 20 years to try to lay down all those forks out here. I ain't trying to hear it, right? I'm not trying to do all that, right? So, plastic forks, they work. It's a great option. However, the sun is going to eat them up. They're going to break, and you're going to find yourself replacing them time and time again. That's not something that I'm willing to do right now with my life. So, um, so the plastic forks, like I said, they work. Good option, but not for me. Not at this point. Another one that we've used has been bird spikes. So we've used bird spikes before, and they work just like it's the same concept as the plastic forks. However, we used the cheap bird spikes. I got them from the 99-cent store, and the sun ate them up. They broke, and eventually they just didn't work anymore. But still a good option. If you use the metal ones, that may be a better option. But the ones that we use, not so much. Now, something that we used that actually worked really well was lattice. This stuff right here, right? Lattice, however you say it. That stuff works really well. And what's cool about this is you can cut it to the size of your bed, and you see how big those holes are? Prep your soil, mulch, and then plant directly in the hole. It's like almost as if that stuff was made for, that purpose. And that keeps the cats out of the garden too, because the holes aren't as big as um, the cats would like to be able to scratch and to be able to, use your bed as a litter box. So we've been doing beginner garden classes. So every class we would get the same question, and that's how do you keep cats and stuff like that out of your beds? Okay. So I gave this the typical response, which was the forks, the bird spikes, that kind of stuff, right? But so what I did was, so I started prepping the beds and I mulched everything with pet bedding. Now, pet bedding in for us, when the wind blows, it's gone, right? It's really light. The wind is going to take it away. So I wanted the pet bedding to stay in the bed. So what I did was I laid a layer of cardboard down to keep the pet bedding from flying away. Put some rocks on top just to make sure the cardboard stayed in place, and it worked perfectly. And the cats do not go in those beds. You remove their ability to scratch and dig, and they will stop using your raised beds as a litter box. Now let me show you what I did. Some of the things that we use now. This is what we're using now. This is just regular cardboard, and I know you guys have boxes at home because I know everybody here loves to shop at Amazon, right? So I know you got some boxes, but that's it. I just came through. I amended the bed, watered it in, and then I mulched it with a thin layer of leaves, right? But like I said, I didn't want these leaves to get blown away. And then look at that. We got stuff popping up from 2 seasons ago. Like we haven't planted onions in this bed since the beginning of this year, right? So January-ish of this year, and look here. You have some onions trying to pop up right there. You got onions trying to pop up right here. That's crazy, right? And I'm like, we've been growing in this bed. We harvested the onions. We planted tomatoes and other things, and now look. Not only is it keeping the cats out, but for some reason, it's making the onions that we left behind germinate. None of these onions were here when I put that cardboard in. Now look at all this stuff that's going on, right? But this bed does need some attention, but we're getting to that as we move through the garden slowly. We're doing some reconstruction, but yeah. So check this out, y'all. So I this, I did not water this bed as much as I would have liked to. And I knew that in the beginning, but so it is kind of moist down there, but obviously it's moist enough for our onions to try to sprout. Okay, but that's it. That's all we did. The cats don't bother this bed at all, and the leaves are actually breaking down and becoming nutrition for whatever we're going to plant here, which looks like it's going to be more onions because the because yeah, and look who's here. All right, but so here's what the plan is for the cardboard. I don't want to lift this. I don't want to move this cardboard, right? Oh, and another option aside from the cardboard is going to be this construction paper right here. This is just like it's actual construction paper, like contractors would use it. And this is a $12 roll that I got from Home Depot, and I used it in I've used a lot of this throughout the garden. Right, it's a weed barrier, but I've used this before also. You just cut it to size. The beautiful thing about this, like, I didn't intend for these onions to pop up on me, right? I did not intend for these onions to pop up on me. So let me tell you what my plan was for using the cardboard while it was in this bed. What we did once we had the paper down is I went ahead and I scored this square. I just used a box cutter. I cut an X actually. I cut an X, then I folded the cut pieces under the paper, and that created that little square right there that you can just dig back and plant your start or whatever, right? Same thing right here. I just cut a circle, did the same thing. Keisha came in, she pulled everything back, pulled the mulch back, the soil back, planted the start, and then she filled the hole back. Now we have the tool over here because we planted 6 plants here, and the cabbage worm just came through and devoured everything. So the cardboard to keep the cats at bay, but it's not going to keep the cabbage worm out. So unfortunately, that's that. But that's why we got the tool down. And as far as watering, this paper is pretty resilient. Like, it rained, and that's why the paper looks the way it does. Because the day after I planted this, I mean, the day after we put this paper, yeah, the day after we planted these I don't know if these are broccoli or greens or whatever, but whatever they are, the day after we planted them, it rained, and the construction paper actually held up. Like, it's not weak at all. It's had the chance to dry out, and it's still pretty solid. But I would imagine that if you're wetting this frequently, eventually it's going to just wear down. It's going to just break down, and then if you want to, you can replace it or do whatever. But this so far has been effective for us at keeping the cats at bay. My plan now going forward is to do the same thing in all the beds. And even when we start to plant the garlic, I'm going to just have to come through and punch holes and, punch multiple holes in here. It's going to be time consuming, but it's going to keep the cats out. And that's essentially what I want right now. All right, y'all. So that's it. That's how we're keeping the cats out of our beds this season. I will continue to update you as far as how that works going forward, because it's going to get wet and it's going to wear out and break down and all that good stuff. And I'm going to keep you guys informed as to how long it takes for that whole process to happen, right? And how effective it is, like how effective it stays, because it's working. It's definitely keeping the cats out. Yeah. And we're not getting rid of the cats. That's not an option, because they are more valuable to us now than, what I'm saying. Like, I'll tolerate them using everything for litter boxes for, as long as I can, until I come up with a system that can actually keep them out, right? So um getting rid of the cats is not an option. They're doing us a huge favor. They are on patrol night and day, keeping things out of the garden. So that's just one of them things where you got to take the bitter with the sweet. That's how we're keeping them out of our raised beds and keeping them from using litter boxes. So far, it's working. So far, so good. Like I said, I keep you guys updated. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Here's another video for you guys to watch to follow us on our gardening journey. We'll see you guys in the next one. Doses.